Hey there, I'm Sara, a portrait and wedding photographer and your host for Wedding Secrets Unveiled. This is a podcast where we cut through the complexity of wedding planning, leaving you with everything you need to know directly from the industry experts. If you want to simplify your wedding planning while having fun, of course, you came to the right place. Join me while I guide you through your planning, starting from your engagement to your big day when you say, I do. After photographing for over 20 years, I am sharing with you tips and tricks to cut through the excess noise. Because I believe from the moment you said yes, your planning experience should be a magical time in your life. Here you'll find episodes that are fun, stress-free, and straight to the point with a fresh, honest take on the reality of what you really need to know about planning your perfect day. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. I'm your host, Sara Zarella, and today I am joined by three amazing women, Katie, Pamela, and Em. They are all event planners in the area, and we are having a roundtable discussion about event planning and about the industry, and just talking to you guys with a very frank, candid discussion. So if you kind of want to get the inside scoop and hear it firsthand by three wonderful leading ladies, this is the episode for you. Wherever you are in your planning process, I definitely suggest that you tune into this episode as you get to hear so many little tips and little nuggets and great little feedback about just planning your wedding in general. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. This is part 1 of 2. Welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. I'm your host, Sara Zarella, and today I am joined with three lovely ladies. Hello.
Hello.
Right.
Girls, you want to tell everybody who you are, who you serve, and what you do?
Hi, I'm Devaud, owner of Devaud Events, and I serve all my brides and grooms and grooms and grooms and brides and brides.
Hi, I'm Pamela Dorsey. I'm the owner of PDR Events and New England Invitations. I've been in business for 17 years, and I've served clients in Newport, New York City, Naples, and Palm Beach.
I am Katie Ryan, owner of Katie Ryan Events. I have been in the industry the event industry for well over 20 years and love my job.
Perfect. Well, thank you, ladies. All right. Well, today we were thinking that we were going to have, I guess, a roundtable discussion or a semi-round table, semicircle about just our industry and where it's gone and the changes that we're seeing. And hopefully for our listeners, give them a little bit of like tips and just understanding and like an unveiling behind the scenes of what goes on in our industry. Right.
Awesome.
So I think we should kick it off today with AI, or as my dad would call it, Al. So tell me a little bit about, girls, like what you're seeing with AI. And I think that kind of like loops us in a little bit with social media and just where that whole world is going into and how it's affecting us.
I'd love to start.
Go for it, Katie. Take it.
So, I mean, I don't know too much right now. I'm still learning about AI. I will say, me personally, I'll play around and type something in, and what I get back is not my personality at all. I feel like as a creative, because I am very much into, I paint and I write a lot and I read poetry, and like creativity is important to me. And being my authentic self is also important to me. I feel like maybe I'm hesitant and kind of push that away because I don't want that taking over my personal gifts God gave me, I think, and also like being able to connect with my couples. So I don't know I can't talk on that, but I can talk on social media. And one of, there's a few things. One, social media, there's pros and cons, I think, to everything. Social media, I feel like pros are, it gives you a wide variety of options and ever networking, connections, checking out somebody's work. Great. Gives inspiration, but, to copy inspiration and to have expectations that something's going to be that certain way without understanding price tags or what that vision actually includes within your budget. I think there's just a lot of misrepresentation and miscommunication and honestly fake videos and content being passed around to the point where sometimes I can't even watch a TikTok video. I can't look at social media anymore because the information that they're providing isn't accurate, or it's not at least accurate in this area that we work in, New England. Or, for example, a TikTok video of there was a bride that said she planned everything herself and she can't believe the wedding industry is price gouging. We're not price gouging. I'm pretty sure we all make a very moderate salary. I don't think anybody's going crazy, but also, like, has anybody bought a vodka soda lately? They're $22.
Yeah.
I live by myself. I have a house and I have 2 fur babies I got to take care of. And I mean, going to the grocery store, 2 bags of groceries right now is $225.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there's so much information out
So
there.
much information that's inaccurate.
Yeah.
And it's making the wedding industry, one, look bad, because we all, I think I can speak for all of us here, do this because we love it and we love our couples. It's not for cost. It's not for, recognition and getting published. It's not for any of that. And I think listening to these TikTok videos and you're getting constantly bombarded, it really shows the wedding industry in a bad light. And that makes me upset. There's more things too, I think, if you guys want to include, but I just think the amount of inaccurate information, posting content, there's new planners. We all started somewhere. I used to do, styled shoots when I first started. Now I don't have time. It's not that I don't want to. I have creative ideas all the time. But when you're a new planner and you're posting, styled shoots and, day of coordination services as planner designer on your Instagram page, and that is actually not a accurate representation of what your job was that day, that's, to me, lying to the couple and also misguiding them in not the best direction for them, which is what's important.
So a little bit about that, right? For our listeners, like, just to kind of explain what Katie's talking about. When we
Did
say,
I just go on a tangent?
no,
It's
you're
just,
good. I actually have a lot to say about
to
that.
inform people because we have such a planner has an important job. We deal with not only the most important day of your life, we also deal with, this is a big expense and an investment, and it's not something to play around. I don't look at it as a joke and I can screw around. We deal with large budgets and we have a really important job. And if you're not a reflection of that, it kind of gives us a bad name.
Yeah. So a little bit about like just what style shoots are is actually they've taken to a whole new level now. So back in the day, and I say back in the day, like maybe only 4 years ago.
And it's a controlled environment versus a real wedding.
So like when I say only 4 years ago, like style shoot would be like a bunch of vendors will get together, they'll come up with a shoot, they'll plan, they'll have a vision board, and then they'll even have models, which that's a whole other level on a photographer's end of posing, because that's not you posing them, it's the models ultimately posing them. And sometimes they'll even have an art director posing them, and then they do a shoot, and then they publish it or they post it on social media. Now it's taken to a whole new level where you literally now have event planners or people who are creating businesses where they are funding the shoot, and so therefore they come up with, they'll hire the stylists and the
Usually
venue,
they ask for free,
the planners, and then they'll charge people. Photographers will
Oh,
pay.
Heard about
I
this.
heard about
This
this
is new.
too. I heard about this.
So this is why
I never get
that's
the
why I said
gossip.
like 4 years ago style shoots are one thing. Now what you're seeing is a whole new business happening where it's usually right now event planners doing this, and they'll set up a whole scene. They'll go to the venue, they'll get the tables, the linens, the decor, the florals, and they'll hire the models, and then photographers are paying to go and photograph this. And
if that happens to you, call me. I'll give you names of planners that will do it for free.
So with that said, what's happening is then photographers are posting it on their feeds, and it's funny because how I found out about this is I saw multiple photographers that I know posting. I'm like, wait a minute, I just saw that couple. I just saw that image. I mean, I knew it was a style shoot, but I mean, usually style shoots.
We know it
back
in the
in
background. We
day,
can spot it.
I mean, I knew it was a style shoot, but back in the day, style shoots usually had one photographer on site. I'm like, wait a minute, why is multiple photographers posting this? And then I researched. I'm like, oh, this is a thing now. So that's what a style shoot is.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, Sarah, that there's more than one photographer on shoot. Like the premise behind that back in the day was just to get a nod into the style of what that wedding planner can create. Like this is what I see because blue is a trend now. This is what I see when I see a black and white wedding.
Or back in the day, like you said, it was like a reason to do it was to show people like, this is what we should do. We should bring color back into your wedding.
Exactly.
Or bring
And if you have an idea,
Right. If you
like
have an
at
idea,
a
this is taking
location,
a whole new level. This is portfolio boosters
It has.
now.
It's also I just heard about it recently too, and I think those photographers are paying, and then they take that work and they send it to publications hoping to get published. To then they think that that's going to increase their cost or whatever.
Well,
and
one thing too
should be all based on experience.
Well,
a
one
style
thing,
shoot
too,
is not real.
It's creating false expectations, expectations for people's weddings, false expectations from that planner,
And the product you can deliver and service.
Yes, because my thing is details, design and decor. Love it, love it, love it. My favorite part. But guess what? I am working on. I'm working on timelines. I'm working on solidifying
Putting
the
out flyers in
menus.
the back.
Yeah, but working on menus, getting all the counts on. I got Excel spreadsheets I'm sorting through. So it's like, oh, I hire this wedding planner. Are you just hiring her for the design and decor? Because that's what they're showing you right now is not full wedding planning. That's a snippet of
Also,
design
too,
and
the
decor.
budget sometimes what people don't realize is that's an unrealistic budget.
I said it's false expectations of what
Right.
they're going to get in their wedding because they don't understand that those chairs right there, there's only 8 of them in that shoot, but they're
they're
$22 each.
And,
Or
and
60.
on a photographer level, it's false expectations because that's not the photographer's posing. That's not the photographer's prompts. Also, too, anybody could take a picture of something
It's not
really
real
pretty.
life action.
Oh, I know.
And it's a controlled environment, so you're not dealing with the
Personalities and the
or
time
just somebody walking in the way to get that perfect shoot. You have to be a really good photographer on site dealing with 225 people to produce a beautiful album, and that's just taking away from
Sorry, I was just going.
No, it's okay.
I was just saying, but also too, like Pamela was saying, style shoots are okay. It's what you're doing with it afterwards.
Correct.
And I think that's what you were saying, Katie, which is like, so you do all this stuff. There's a reason and a purpose for it. Great. I'm okay with that. Like you need to get experience somewhere, or if it's just to do what it used to do, which is show people like, look at this, something really pretty.
I thought of,
it's what you're doing afterwards. Where I found this out is I found it because I knew it was a style shoot because I just know style shoots. I have the eye.
We all
But
do now.
But I was
Yeah,
like,
you
but
can-
why is this photographer posting it? Why is this photographer posting it? And it wasn't saying in the information style shoot. It was
exactly
was
say style
presenting
shoot,
it-
say day of coordination on the photos that you're doing day of coordination.
definitely presenting
say
it
full
as
year planning
theirs.
and design for your full year planning design, because each one of those have totally different job responsibilities and job duties. So if you're saying you're a planner and designer for a day of coordinator, you didn't plan, you didn't design, you're pulling stuff in 3 months out, and then you're taking credit for somebody. Let's be real, who I can't do a design without a florist, and I'll forever say that. I come up with crazy ideas, but I check with the florist first, make sure that it's attainable, it won't crush their team, and it's doable. There's so many different things I think about before I even present my ideas to the couples, but like give credit where credit's due, and none of these designs would even happen without florists.
To your point too, I think that there's a lot of vocabulary in the industry that gets really confusing. So I think, there's a lot of names that all sound the same: event designer, event planner, event manager,
coordinator.
Yep. And I think that this DOCs, I think that to a layman or someone who's not in the industry, they just go, oh, okay. And I think it's really, really important to distinguish what those roles are. And there are a number of caterers and venues and locations that specifically say, we offer an event manager on site. You don't need a planner. And you go, okay, well, that's different because you're just focused on exactly what is happening on your FEO or BEO. You're not looking at the holistic event itself.
Talking about budget, what
Nor are
vendors
you-
are the best
yeah.
fit.
And
All the
then I think
timelines
there's-
leading up to that.
Exactly. And I do think too that there are event designers who go, oh yeah, I can help you plan your event. but they're focused on how does it look and how does it feel and the aesthetics, which is great. They're also not realistically planning,
Guest
the
arrival,
logistics of
what the guests are
everything.
going to experience, what the
So I think
families
that this is really
experience.
important because
Yeah.
there are a number of roles that sound exactly the same, but entail very different things. And so even when you post on social media, coming back to the point, I think that when you post on social media and you say, even if you say event designer, that doesn't necessarily mean anything to someone who's just starting wedding planning and they don't know. I don't know how to get that information out there other than like, here's the vocabulary list of when you've signed up with your
And
wedding
just to
planner.
touch
that's
upon
true.
too,
It's-
what Katie had said about design and decor. I was just on the phone with the design company before I presented to the client. Can we do this and this? This is her vision. Let's stream it like this. Can we do this and this? They came back to me with some of their ideas based on the storyboard that I put together. That was a reflection of what the client wanted. Then I brought in the florist and I said, okay, with this and this, do you think linen's on here and here? These are my choices and whatnot. We collaborated on this. So it was a team effort. And I love it because they told me their perspective. I told their mine. So here's 3 of us. Now we have a meeting in a week. All this is getting presented to the client. And that's how that works. It's not like, yay, it's me and I'm standing on top of a mountain that I did this whole thing. Like to get there, it might be PDR events, planning and design, but see those vendors we list under it, they all made it happen. And again, it's going back to using the vendors that are not just going to sit there and make a centerpiece, but are going to join in and collaborate with the design work and almost, send me an email at 8 a.m. to say, hey, I thought about what you said. Let's change it to this and this. So that's realistically how that comes about, not just like a shoot where you bring in all these people
I planned
in.
and designed. No, you didn't. I'm pretty sure you checked with
yes.
3 other people, but that's what makes a good team.
And that's it. And I even, the main thing that I'm really responsible for is that storyboard to put together. And again, I can collaborate, but it's getting that storyboard, presenting it, and wanting other ideas. But I think that's what makes us good is that we're not sitting here with our ego like, I came up with all these ideas. Yeah. I know where I'm creative and everything, but I said, no, they came up with that, or so-and-so came up with that, or I think it should be this way. And that's how we learn. Because if you don't open the doors to other people and their input, you're never going to grow and learn.
Going back to your point about AI, I think this is where I'm very curious to see the next couple of years because a styled shoot is going to be so much easier to create on AI. I have been doing a lot of self-reflecting on sort of the advancements of technology. And I think that, how cool is it that we've created these systems? As a human race, I think that's very cool. Yeah. And I was an English major in college, and I know how hard I had to work to prove everything that I wrote about, and prove that I didn't plagiarize it online. And so I'm very split because there's part of me that goes, well, if you know how to use that technology and you can kind of create cool imagery, and I think there are aspects to, our jobs that, we can kind of
be helpful.
It could be very helpful. And then I had a client the other day who said, it shouldn't take you that long to make a timeline. You're just pop it into ChatGPT.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, ChatGPT thinks it takes 5 minutes to eat salad for 250 people. Like that's,
that's going
back to,
and also too, ChatGPT is pulling information from that's out there. Yes. So like they're getting timelines from other timelines that's posted online, different situations. But I will say, as a side note, I'm just getting to the point now. I'm like, where I'm like, etiquette of ChatGPT needs to start happening soon. Like, I don't know how many times I read an email and I just want to write back and be like, per your ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm talking to ChatGPT and not you. And I'm just I just want to talk to you.
Is it, maybe I'm wrong, but like, again, it can be used for certain things, maybe creative ways to list
like
your
stationery.
Or
use
it that
way of self-help.
But we can embrace it as a tool. Exactly, Sarah. I keep thinking we're talking about these design elements, and I had a wedding where it was really handy. The client wanted 35 table names. It was a really big wedding. 35 table names that were all whimsical and earthy. And she gave me like 2 or 3 examples. So I typed it in and we came up with a lot more because awesome way to use the tool.
Can you ask Chat GPT what we're going to do in rain backup plan, and if they can make that call about 48 hours in advance, or how? Like, there's 1,000 things.
Do they know that the tents have to be up with the rain call 3 days before because we can't do it the morning of because they can't go and set up 35 tents.
Can you create my budget based on all of the vendors in the area? And
I'm sorry, we're in the Newport area. Nope, that's good for the Midwest, but
But I do think that there's, we've been talking a lot about the styled shoots and the design elements, but I think that along with social media, it's going to be something that we're all having to be a little more aware of, I think, overall, to know.
Doesn't it make you sad, though, to think that the creativity and some of that is kind of taken away?
Well, you don't have to have creativity.
I'm going to share
that's what it is.
Creativity.
No, that's what I mean.
Problem. That's what I thrive
now
on.
Now it's saying that you almost don't have to have creativity.
No,
you can
do.
Just put it in there. That's what I mean. And that's what if you didn't have that aspect now, like, because we're like the OGs, if you didn't have that aspect, we wouldn't be in business. Like, seriously, like, who's gonna?
So I actually have a funny story, and not a funny story, but I want to share something, and I don't know, where this is going to take us, but just something I wanted to share. So I am in the middle of doing a rebrand for SCP, and it's a full overhaul.
What did you say?
Sara's Roller. SCP.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Sara's Roller Photography.
I was like, I don't know. Is that another platform I'm not aware of?
No. You're like, oh shit, I gotta get on trend now. Get on trend, Katie. SCP. Have you heard about it? But so like all of the logos, all my website, everything I've done myself, and I just feel that I can do it myself again, but like I've outgrown my brand, and I'm just sick of looking at it. I'm just done with it. Sorry for the listeners that are looking at it and think it's nice. I'm just over it. So I was like, I can do this myself, but I'm like, I don't want to, because at the end of the day, I'm a photographer. I'm not a designer. Mm-hmm. So I've been researching designers, and it's been going on for a couple months because I want to find the right one, because I have a vision. Mm-hmm. I just need the right designer to implement it, because still needs to be my heart and my soul. Mm-hmm. Anyway, with that said, I've narrowed it down to 3 designers. But the reason why I'm sharing this story is I now understand being on the other side as the consumer into an industry that we know so well. Okay?
Yeah.
So, and I've actually learned a lot about the design world, and the design world is very much intertwined, just like our world is here, but on a national level, because as a designer, you can design virtually. So all these designers out there, they all know each other, just like we do in New England and Newport. I'm learning all this, and they all know each other because the internet shows you a lot. Instagram shows you a lot. So you start to see who follows who. Anyway, I'm getting a tangent. My point is I've narrowed it down to 3. From there, I narrowed it down to 2. I got rid of the 3rd, not for anything that has to pertain to this conversation. And when I say got rid of it, meaning in a good way, they're just not going to be the right fit for me. So there's 2 now. With that said, I ended up finally selecting one last week, but I'm going to tell you, I almost didn't. And I'll tell you why. The other one, I fell in love with that person as a person through their social media. So I was following them, and I loved everything they were posting. I just wanted to be friends with them, and I wanted to hang out with them and get a drink with them. And I wanted to hire them so bad because I just liked them. And I liked them through what they were posting on social media. And that's the power of social media.
But how do you know if it's them or if it's somebody else?
I don't know. But at the end
them?
of the day, I also enjoyed my conversations with them. Yep. I enjoyed talking to them on the Zoom calls. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed my emails with them. I enjoyed everything about them. And everybody's like, oh, just trust your gut, trust your gut. And I was like, oh my God, but my gut's doesn't know what to do. And my gut was telling me to hire this one designer that I didn't hire at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, I started to really think about it. And I'm like, wait a minute, why do I like this person? I'm like, I like this person as them. But I really started to look at their work, like their actual work, because I was educating myself and I was able to figure out the differences. And that's too, maybe because I have a design background. At the end of the day, the designer that I hired, I like them too, but they just were not out on social media as much as this other person was. And their work was the work that I needed to hire for my business. And what happened is I learned that I was getting sidetracked by what the other designer was putting on social media because I just liked them. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, you have to hire someone that you like. But it wasn't like I didn't like the other designer that I hired. It just,
the other one was winning out with personality.
The other one was winning out with what they were putting on social media. That was personality, where the other one has a great personality. But she wasn't on stories all the time, and
Exactly.
she wasn't doing all these things. But both of them, I liked their calls. Both of them, I liked what I was talking to. But I had to figure out, like, wait a minute, I have to hire one. How do I figure out? And I just stopped, and I got rid of all the noise, and I really started to just look at their portfolio. And I went with the one that wasn't as much on social media. And I'm so happy with going with her. And I'm sure I would have been fine with the other one. But what I'm trying to say is the reason why I'm sharing this story is, yes, we have to understand that social media is part of the package, and we have to, I guess sell ourselves on there. But for the viewer who may not be researching as much as I was researching, because it was a lot of money I was going to be spending, I had to find the right one. I almost went with one that probably wasn't going to be able to execute what I needed.
Because
I just thought she was awesome. She's still awesome.
Just recently, I had this happen because I say this on my social media that I hate social media, and it's not that I hate it. It's just on top of running a business, on top of really focusing on my couples, on top of life in general, like, and social media being kind of fake, and watching another TikTok video of a planner moving a fork when there's 1,000 other things that we do. Like, it's just cringe. But my Instagram, I made it a point to want, I post when I'm feeling creative. I post when I see a photo that brings me joy and like lights my heart up. I'm not on there all the time. I am getting told that I need to be from other people. But I had a couple say to me after they booked me, they almost didn't hire me because of my social media.
Yep.
And I went, what about my social media? And they're like, well, you just don't showcase what we're looking for. I said, no, I'm not going to showcase what you're exactly looking for, because all of my couples are different. Yeah. So I want to be eclectic. I want to show that I can take somebody that it's not going to be the same cookie cutter hanging from the ceiling down a middle table. Like, if you want something creative, let's build that. Let's make it different. But they almost didn't choose me from that. And then I did ask, what other planner that they were kind of thinking of. And unbeknownst to them, it was somebody that worked under me for maybe 3 events and had worked for me in the past and wasn't really heavy on operations, and they needed that. So luckily they made a good choice. I mean, but my social media almost didn't make that happen. And quite honestly, it should reflect real work, real stories. And it should show a variety, not the same.
And that's why I was sharing the story, because at the end of the day, event planner, it's just that you guys are thinking event planner. That designer, I may refer that designer they didn't go with to somebody, because they might be right for the next person that's looking for a designer. But we have to be conscious of it, because I still like what she posted. I still feel a bond with her, because I was like, oh, we like the same things, but I was getting taken away with all of that versus the work. And the designer I'm working with is nailing it. And I may have missed that. Yeah. So I just think my whole point of telling that story is, I put myself into the shoes of somebody else who may not understand the wedding world. They're getting married for the first time and only time, and they're like, what do we do here? And of course you can get sidetracked with that. It's just a real thing. I don't know what to do with it. It's just out there, and it's a real thing.
What's a helpful tip too? If maybe you guys can chime in too. I think instead of looking at the main page of Instagram for any particular vendor, look at the tagged photos, because obviously this is a showcase of the most beautiful work, and a photographer could be fabulous. But they're going to showcase that one photo that's, magazine worthy, and you don't get to see the hundreds of thousands of photos I look through, you look through in a full album, and they're not all like that. So I also think going to the tagged, reading comments about what they say underneath the photos that you post, I think would be helpful too.
I do remember you saying that was a good tip for our listeners.
Information, because I think that shows the difference of a variety of what you're actually going to experience, because it's not all of that in an album. Right. That's very important.
I've seen, this has happened, and both actually were photography related. So Sara, you might have opinions on this. It's 2 of my clients for 2026. They signed contracts with a photographer.
We
And
talked
then,
about this.
Yeah, you and I talked about this offline.
Yeah.
So they signed contracts. They went through 1 or 2 phone calls. They looked through the media. It wasn't like an uneducated decision. They made the choice and they liked a photographer. They signed a contract. And then a couple of months or weeks later, they came back to me and said, I think I made the wrong choice. I've been looking at their social media and what they've been posting recently. And in both cases, they pointed to 1 or 2 weddings that this photographer, they were 2 separate photographers. So I didn't like the wedding that they were posting. And I found that the client had a really hard time distinguishing between like, okay, well, that was their wedding. Is it
Their
that you're
style.
not liking the style?
Or what they
Is it not
requested?
liking the weather that happened? Are you not liking the venue or the setting? Are you looking at the photo and the artistic level of the photo? And I think that's been
It just happened.
suddenly very,
It just
and again,
happened
it's
to me last week.
And you know,
It's
it's interesting.
fascinating.
And I bet you these photographers are really good photographers.
Yeah.
And it's just, but again, they're looking at it, and it's kind of goes back to what Pamela was saying, or like your Pinterest board, like that may not be in Newport. That might be on the West Coast. The
Yes.
lighting might be differently. But my point is they're looking at it as a full look at, meaning like, do I like the flowers? Do I like the dress? Like not actually what the actual photographer took pictures of. And that goes back down to the style shoots where anybody could take pictures of pretty things.
Yeah.
So it's just an overall thing with the social media. We don't know what that's doing, but like you said, like
Couples have to listen to their planners and their guidance and trust. That's it. You have
And-
to have
and also,
an
I just had
experienced
this-
planner and trust that the final product we understand and it is going to be delivered. Like that.
So you can have a phone conversation. So for instance, I'm setting up phone conversations right now with the photographers for, September and October.
Yeah.
And one of the things I said to this one, I said, you're very particular because she's an older bride and she knows what she wants exactly. So I said, go on her website and her social media and pick out the pictures that you like. Tell them that you do not want the heads touching. Tell them that you don't want this and whatever. And so it was great. The photographer's like, oh, you've got this like Vogue style. Do you want some black and white? She's like, yes. And so she came off that and she texted me. She's like, I feel so much better. I said, you're going to get that. I said, you just have to understand, like, there's some couples, they're all lovey-dovey. We can't get them, like, off each other. So that's why all the pictures are like that. And this was one of it.
Yeah.
And the bride, she giggled all the time.
Yeah.
And, like, there's so many pictures of her almost not serious. But that is her.
Yes.
And there's also like a video of us like going into each other, like, and she starts like doing this little robot dance when she sees me, like,
Yes.
but that was that bride.
Yes.
So like, it's true, like with photography, there's so many different weddings out there.
videographers, too.
Yeah, and videographers. It's like, what do
But you know what you
they
just
like?
took for granted, though, Pamela, is as you were telling the story, what you did is you made sure something didn't happen. Like M was explaining where the people got rid of the photographer because they just didn't like what they saw, but it's not the photographer. You actually coached your client
Through.
of how to talk to the photographer to make sure that they work together as a team. 'Cause
Yes.
so that was a key role too. You coached them to be like, gave them the tools so therefore they could talk to the photographer. And then like the photographer's like, oh, I know exactly what you need. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break. And then when we get back, we'll continue this conversation. Okay?
Sounds good.
Cool. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you like what you're hearing, I encourage you to check out our website at sarazarella.com. And don't forget, you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate if you left a fabulous review on Apple Podcasts. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support. And now, let's get back to the episode. Well, welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. All right before the break, we were talking a little bit about social media and AI. And we were talking a little bit about like how to just like cut through the noise, which I guess then that leads into our next topic, which is like market saturation and figuring out like direction and who you should hire and how do you figure this whole thing out in this crazy saturated market. I mean, there's enough business to go around, but there's a ton of us. So like, what does one do?
Where do we begin?
I think you can I think it originally started like the bombarding of vendors started after COVID. I know it's a sore subject for everybody, I think, that actually went through COVID and dealt with that because that was a really difficult time for everyone. But But after that, it was almost like brides that plan their wedding twice decided that they were just going to be planners, or,
is that what you're seeing in your industry? A lot
that's what we saw, which now we're probably, what year are we now?
6?
5
6?
years out. 2020,
like just yesterday.
Still regulations.
Yeah, but I think that it was that I noticed a big difference in people trying to break into the market, and they have, they thought just by planning and going through COVID that they would be.
Well, think about it too. If you just as people in general, right? You are in a job you don't like, and you were given this opportunity to take a deep breath, and you went, all right, I don't want to do this. I want to pivot, and and a lot of people, whether they were getting married or not, a lot of people did that. I know when I switched from corporate event planning to weddings, I did the same thing, and it was partially because I was forced into taking that breath, which almost everyone was during COVID. So I think that when you had that opportunity to go, okay, this isn't what I want to do, but I do want to do wedding planning that makes me happy. Or photography. I went on all these walks and took all these photos, and now I really understand the camera, and now I'm going to take all these pictures. I think that's a little bit of where there's a huge group that sort of poured in. And then, it's also working from home and working on your own schedule is pretty nice. And with the come back to the office lifestyle that so many people were put into starting in 2022, I think that there's a lot of people who said, yeah, well, I'm going to try my hand at this.
Up.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, thank you, because we all needed a breather.
Yeah. But getting back to with the oversaturation with us, I think we're very blessed because we get a lot of referrals from former brides because we've been in the industry.
And vendors.
But I have been told you get what you pay for, and never go down on your price if you know your self-worth and your value. So I've stuck to that. And then there's also, I've talked to, going back to there's people that have these great social media presence. I've talked to photographers. I've talked to event coordinators at venues. And they're like, Pamela, do you know your wedding scripts? You're probably the most detailed. Do you know when you're
hey,
no,
this
no,
isn't
no,
a sale.
listen, no.
I'm just
saying
kidding.
meaning
I'm just kidding.
what they're referencing. No, but they're just kind of referencing. They're referencing the influx, meaning they don't have that on it. They don't have this on it.
Or when they're on site, the vendors are saying, and we.
No,
like
this
I
is,
said,
and this
it's
is
a
what I'm
small
getting
industry.
to. They're like, what you do with 2 and 3 people, some of them can't do with 4 to get out of their own way.
Yep.
And it's just you know where to put yourself now. And so, and we have to tell the staff sometimes, Pamela's been here since 2008. Pamela's been here since this. She knows this. If you see her talking to the chef, if you see her this.
Why did the Barney Rubble song come on?
Yeah. So, and my thing is, and
if
they,
you see her talking to the chef, just let her talk.
Yeah, just let her go. She's just like this or whatever. Or if, do this, she's, and I used to always, I remember one of the first times the event coordinator was there, and I'm running the ceremony, and, and it's just it was a new event coordinator. They're like, no, Pamela's always been running ceremonies. And I go, oh, I didn't know we weren't supposed to. This was back in the day. I'm just, but you know your client. So they just say what we know and what we come from experience. And again, getting back to knowing your place. So I feel like we're also blessed to be on preferred vendor list. So with all that, we know what we're bringing to the table. And this is my thing that they have told me. Other clients, they don't know what they've missed with other planners. They don't know that
you don't
that
know what
planner
you don't
doesn't
know.
do that. They don't know what they don't know. And that's what I've been told, because I would never have thought of that. And they say that they don't know what they've missed, having XYZ planner versus this one.
That's so sad, because that's what I mean. We work for so long, and we've been doing this and learning I still learn every event that I have. There is something new that happens where I learn, whether I have to adjust my contract, whether I take note and go, okay, because every event's different, dealing with different personalities. I think that I forgot where I was going with that, but
well, that's why I was sharing the story about trying to look for a designer. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yes,
right?
yes.
I'm not in the design world, but I knew enough being an entrepreneur that I had to educate myself. So I did a lot of education, and that's where I really started to be, because I just kept looking at logos and brandings and websites. I'm like, oh, they all look pretty. I was like, but how am I going to pick? And then I started to realize now I really know how to pick, and I know how to look for the way that they use typography. I'm not trying to bore you guys with the show, but like what I'm trying to say is like, I know now how to pick out and a designer. And that's why I shared that, because I was getting taken away by just like the amazing personality it was on the other one. And like, yes, you want to like
and their Instagram.
And their Instagram, and
Yeah.
you want to like their, your wedding planner's personality. You work with them, so that's something you have to consider. But like, I think where the saturated market is like, people don't know what to look for. They're calling you, and they're calling the next person. They don't know who to hire. They don't know what is the difference. I mean,
and
I
then
guess
they turn to the social media, and that's where they're getting this influx of imagery, and they don't know if.
But it's overly saturated. So how does one figure this out? What's the key?
Well, I think there's certain things that you can do. One, I think calls tell a lot about your experience. You should be able to tell right away if you're talking to somebody with experience versus what somebody without. So you pay attention to that. Also, ask vendors. If you already have vendors booked, or if you have vendor friends or anybody in the industry, ask about people's reputation or how it's been like to work with them. I have plenty of people that have been on site with I have to go to planners because that's my line of work, but where they did just stand around, or they didn't do anything to help a situation, or they can you can tell that you can tell that they're inexperienced, and not that that's a bad thing. Again, everybody has to start somewhere. I think you should know your role and be priced upon that experience, but they know a good planner when they're on site with them, vendors. So I think being able to ask them and guide them and take their direction will also be helpful.
Do you feel that in your market, there are a lot of event planners that are not ready to be working at certain weddings
100%.
and venues?
Oh my gosh,
100%.
Never have I ever think.
Yeah.
I do. Yes,
100%.
Yes. And you have to be very intuitive. You have to almost like think about what their next step is going to be, and you have to be intuitive about the guests that are there. And okay, if the mother of the bride is going to be like this, because we have them where the mother of the bride like wasn't involved as much. Well, that was for a reason, or the father of the bride has been making all the decisions in this. But you like definitely like there are some things like, how are they going to handle
The amount of job roles that we have, the amount of hats that we wear, and on top of planning, like being empathetic, being able to manage different personalities, being on site, fixing problems. And I mean big problems. Like I said, it's a wedding is a once in a lifetime moment, and it is a huge investment and an experience that we are in charge of. And for me, I'm sure I can speak for everybody here, there is no room for error. This is not a joke. And
when you say big problems, can you give me like a real time example for one of our listeners? Like, what are you considering?
Example, half the bridal party is down, ready to go. I'm getting ready for a bride to walk. The groom in front of 200 people passes out. Ceremonies in play. I have to obviously... I'm paying attention to the situation. I also, what's going on in my head is 1,000 things. One, catering. How much time do I need to give myself? If this is a 10-minute thing where he's just hot, or if this is actually a medical problem and I have to solve an issue very on the fly, which is constantly pivoting. And I think only being able to do what I did in that moment only comes from being on site and experience after experience after experience. And when I say I've been on site well over 1,500 times, that's not a joke. And what I did was, when I got down to him, I made eye contact, and I knew I needed an hour at least. So one thing, I noticed the music stopped, and I think I yelled at somebody, "Keep the music playing, like you're in Titanic. Don't stop playing freaking music. Like, this is not the time. I got 200 eyes on me."
I was just going to say, keep drawing attention to me.
And my job now is to... What's the best step? The best step was to start cocktail hour, give us an hour, go to, back to the ceremony part, and then run timeline. We did not miss a beat. Was the groom a little groggy and kind of not feeling good? No. Did I yell at him in a fun way? Fine. But go, listen, we got 2 more. Let's do this, because you paid for
Rally,
photo,
guy,
you paid
rally.
for video, you know, we got a cake cut. So yeah, something like that. Like, it is experience is the only way to be the best, I think, in your industry.
What about decision fatigue?
I have it. For Christ's sake.
What's your thoughts about with that?
I have this amazing mother of the bride for this year. I'm going to be literally brokenhearted without her. And I do. I love her so much. And we had such an interesting conversation. I do something with my planning. I like monthly check-in phone calls, and it might be 15 to 30 minutes, just to make sure that they're feeling good, right? And I've been working with them already for a year and a half. It'll be almost 2 full years of planning by the time the wedding happens. And this mom basically said the other day, the bride wasn't on the phone. She goes, I'm sick of planning this wedding. Mm-hmm. She goes, I love you. I love the vendors. I love everything. I am just so tired of planning myself. It's so many little decisions over the course of 2 years. It's that mental load that what we were talking about with the people who stay, the couples who stay in unhappy marriages. It's because of this mental load unbalance. And this mom has, the bride has a job that doesn't allow her to take a lot of breaks. Mm-hmm. So mom has had to handle a lot of the decision making. But I think it is so heartbreaking. And I think we can also speak to the fact that we're in a destination area. And so when a client comes into town on a small scale and they're doing their tasting, their floral, their linen, like all of these meetings,
it's overwhelming
in a 48-hour time frame, it is, by the end of it, even I can't make a decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes I've had to stop it right in the middle and say, we're going to recap. You need to go have a glass of wine. We're going to connect again tomorrow, even though it wasn't on the schedule. They come first, and we're going to hit it up again because I can tell by their face or if they start to tear. It's overwhelming. It is. And it's a big day. Or you could just let us do it, give us free will, and create your vision.
Well, how many times do you put out like that tablescape? You did all the tablescape. They're like, okay, can I see this? Can I see that? Next thing you know, we're back to the beginning.
Yeah. Every single time.
I bite my tongue. I'm like, okay. So
every time.
It's good. Right. But I think, with the industry and decisions, I think you gotta, like, I tell my clients, like, let's regroup in 2 months because right now you need a break. And I did have somebody told me, and I've had this said a couple of times, that their friends are like, oh, how's the wedding planning going? And they said, oh, it's good. If Pamela really needs us, she lets us know. Yep. And then if we don't get back to her, she gets a nudge and she said she's going to put us in timeout. So they said she's funny about it, but we know we have to get this. And I have said to them, I need to manage your expectations. If the reason, we can't get that now, and this is our 4th time revisiting it, I said, it's because you're 4 days out. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Yes. And this is how it is, but it's all going to work out because there does become a certain point where you gotta throw down the hammer, or they change things and then the linen's not available.
Well, okay, you were talking a little bit about when Pamela says she needs something. What about the opposite side, Pamela? What about when people are wanting to do things and it's too far out, or
that our job is to explain that to them.
And that's with invitations. I said, I'm 8 months out because I used to do a year and they changed their mind, or and I said, and if they're really adamant about that, then I take a non-refundable deposit, just because it's time is this is one aspect where you're almost you're meeting with them and it could be up to 2 hours. So I'm just not going to have someone sit there and pick my brain for 2 hours. And I do all of this work and then, I went in a different direction or something. But Katie said, is you just it's kind of getting back to managing their expectations, managing their price point.
Explaining the process to them. They don't know the process. And I actually, sometimes, I've even caught myself going what do you mean? We're a year and a half out. I know, believe me, if I can plan 7 weddings in 2 weeks during COVID, this is nothing. We got time. Mm-hmm. But they get excited, and I want them to get excited, but I also have to let them know our first job is to book the vendors, shelf everything. Right now we're in high season. As much as you might not want to hear this, everybody is focused on the couple that's in front of them, which you will want the same thing too.
Yeah. I've said that before when it's your day. Yep.
And if a florist can't do a mock-up because of such and such, we can't create these experiences at a venue before your wedding. You got to trust the professionals.
Or did you ever have it that I said, we have way too many tabs open right now? I said, you asked me to get, I'm just going to throw this out there, a cotton candy machine, and you want Adele's and then you want
cigar roller and a magician.
And I said, I am not moving on to anything until you tell me yes or no. I said, because you know what, also, it's not fair to that vendor that I'm holding them up.
You're leaving them on
and
red,
being in the industry, I've had them, well, Pamela, I held that date because it was is you, and you usually come through. So I say to people, like, let's, if you don't want to spend X amount, you only want this portion of it, let's do that. And then we'll roll the dice if they're available for X, Y, and Z. Because you've got to be, you know, and I've said it, I'm like, this is my reputation with my vendors, and the why we have it is because I make them, okay, I'm going to let you know within 3 weeks if we're going to do this. So I'm going to go back. Like, I have one client and I said, you know, you asked me about this. I'm not jumping, you know, I feel like the flea that's jumping everywhere. I said, we're going to either book these 3 vendors or I need to let them go.
That's so interesting. I find too that I've set the expectation. I actually ended up this year for the first time sending out a big email and blind copying all my clients to say, hey, listen, here's like every single email signature, it says I'm off on Mondays. And the number of times I have people go, oh, we're going to meet on Monday. Or, you know, in every contract I have, I need 24 to 48 hours response time.
If that,
I'm not
you
in
sometimes
an event.
even need more.
Yes.
You know, I had a bride come, it was one time, and now I say this just so I can set the expectations up, but I had a bride, you know, say, why am I getting responses back quicker than you? Well, one, I built a relationship with vendors. Once the vendor hears that they're working with somebody, they can take a step back, relax, not feel rushed. They hold the date. They get to it when they can. It's an enjoyable experience all around for all the vendors, for everybody. You just need to sit back. Some get a little anxious and they want answers now. Well, that doesn't work like that. If there's a change 2 months before a wedding at a private property that involves a tent install, you know, custom design decor, to change that tent size or to change something that far out, there's about 15 people I have to connect with first, and their turnaround time based on my turnaround time before I want to present to you options, that takes time. It is not and if somebody else thinks they can, please enlighten me on how to make that happen in 2 days, because that's not going to happen.
But I do think that there's an expectation currently, whether it goes back to the COVID thing or whether it's generational. Right now, we've moved away from millennial brides. We're into Gen Z, who has always had instantaneous responses. They've always had the internet. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, and on that note, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up this week's episode. And next week, we're going to have an episode and we're going to start talking about that new couple. That's actually a great segue. Yeah. So what we're going to do is I just want to remind everybody who's listening that you can catch us on YouTube now. And our YouTube channel is Sara Zarella. 2 R's, 2 L's, my last name, and no H. And I'll also have this week's episode notes on our podcast page, which is on sarazarella.com. And I will have all of our guest information on our show notes podcast page. So that way you can find out how you can get a hold of them and talk to them more. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to Wedding Secrets Unveiled. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you something. I encourage you to check out our website at sarazarella.com. We love photographing while having fun, of course. Check out our podcast page on our website for our show notes along with upcoming episodes with your local wedding experts. Listen in as we help you plan your epic event. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. I would so appreciate if you left a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support and let us know what you think. If you know any wedding experts that would like to be a guest, we have a link directly on our website where they can let us know. Thank you for listening.